Have you ever found yourself glancing at the clock, waiting for the phone to ring? Or maybe you've pulled out old photo albums, tracing the faces of your grandkids with your fingertips, wondering when you'll see them next? If that sounds familiar, my friend, you're not alone. So many of us in this chapter of life feel that quiet ache when the visits become fewer, the calls a little less frequent. It's natural to miss them, to want to hold their hands, hear their laughter, and feel that irreplaceable connection. But here's what I want you to know today. This isn't the end of the story. In fact, there are beautiful, loving ways to bridge that distance without guilt, without pressure, and without losing an ounce of your dignity. Because here's the truth. Your grandchildren adore you. Life just gets busy. School, sports, jobs, friendships, it all moves so fast for them. But that doesn't mean the bond you share has to fade. Today, we're going to talk about 4 simple, heartfelt ways to reconnect. Not by demanding their time, but by inviting joy back into your relationship. Now, before we dive in, let me say this. If you're feeling hurt or overlooked, that's okay. Your feelings matter. But let's gently set those heavy emotions aside for a moment and focus on what we can do. Small steps, taken with love, can open doors you might not expect. So, let's start with the first way to reignite that connection. And trust me, it's easier than you think. The first way is to meet them where they are. And I don't just mean physically. Think about it. Your grandkids live in a world of screens, quick messages, and inside jokes you might not always get. But instead of seeing that as a barrier, what if we saw it as a bridge? For example, my friend Martha told me she felt so out of touch with her teenage grandson until she asked him to teach her how to send memes. Now, they trade silly pictures back and forth every week. It's become their little language. You don't have to become a tech wizard overnight. Start small. Send a text saying, "Saw this sunset and thought of you," with a photo. Or if they're on social media, leave a cheerful comment on their post. It shows you're paying attention, that you care about their world. And when you do connect, keep it light. Ask about their favorite video game or that new song they love. You don't have to understand it all, just listen. Before long, they'll start sharing more because they'll feel seen. Now, the second way is something I think you'll love. Share a piece of your story. You have decades of life, laughter, and wisdom they've barely glimpsed. So why not invite them into it? My neighbor Carl started recording short voice memos about his childhood, fishing trips with his dad, his first job, even the time he accidentally dyed his sister's cat pink. He'd send one to his granddaughter every Sunday. Know what happened? She began calling him every week to hear more. You don't need fancy equipment. Write a letter about a memory that makes you smile. Mail them a recipe card with your famous cookie recipe and a note about how you used to bake them with your grandma. Or create a simple scrapbook with photos and captions like, "This was me at your age, riding a horse for the first time, terrified but pretending to be brave." Stories like these aren't just about the past. They're a way to say, you're part of something bigger. You're part of me. We'll explore more ways in a moment, but first, let's take a breath. These steps aren't about grand gestures. They're about tiny threads of connection. And sometimes, those threads weave the strongest bonds. So, if you're feeling unsure, start here. Send one text. Share one story. Then let that warmth grow naturally. After all, love isn't measured in hours spent together. It's measured in moments that linger in the heart. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What if they don't respond? What if I feel like I'm bothering them? Let me reassure you, love is never a bother. But we'll talk more about navigating those worries and 2 more gentle, guilt-free strategies very soon. For now, try one of these ideas this week. Tuck a note in the mail or send a photo of that rose bush they used to help you water. Then, my friend, take pride in knowing you're keeping the door open and the light on. You know, when we talked about sending that text or sharing a story, some of you might have thought, but what if I try and nothing changes? Let's lean into that for a moment. It's a fear we all carry, isn't it? The worry that reaching out might feel one-sided. But here's the thing. Love doesn't keep score. And sometimes, the quietest gestures plant the deepest roots. So let's move forward with that in mind as we explore the next two ways to reconnect, ways that honor both your heart and theirs. The third strategy is to create new traditions together. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but traditions are for holidays or birthdays. Oh, my friend, traditions can be as simple as a Tuesday morning check-in or a shared joke over a silly calendar. Take my cousin Louise. She felt disconnected from her grandsons, who live across the country. So she started a monthly mystery box. Every month, she mails them a small, themed package, a handful of seashells from her beach trip, a packet of hot cocoa mix with a note about her first winter job at a diner, or a puzzle she knows they'll love solving. No pressure, no grand expectations. Just a little, I'm thinking of you. And guess what? Those boys now video call her every time a box arrives, eager to open it together. You don't need to mail physical gifts, of course. Maybe it's a weekly trivia question you text, something fun like, "What's the weirdest food I ever ate?" Or "Guess how many times I've seen the sunrise this month?" Or start a virtual book club for just the two of you. Pick a short story, read it separately, then chat about it over the phone. Traditions aren't about scale, they're about consistency. A tiny thread, pulled gently through time, can stitch your worlds together. Now, the fourth way might surprise you. Give the gift of space with love. Wait, hear me out. We all know what it's like to want more time with someone we cherish. But sometimes, the kindest thing we can do is let them miss us. That doesn't mean silence or distance. It means filling your own life with so much joy and curiosity that when you do connect, you're sharing your world, not just asking about theirs. Let me explain with a story. My friend Harold took up painting after his granddaughter left for college. He'd never held a brush before, but he started sending her photos of his masterpieces. Wobbly trees, lopsided sunsets, you name it. At first, she'd just laugh and say, "Grandpa, that's wild." But over time, she began asking about his classes, his art supply hauls, even suggesting themes for his next project. By nurturing his own passions, Harold gave their relationship fresh energy. He wasn't waiting by the phone. He was living fully, and that's magnetic. So, what does this look like for you? Maybe it's joining a gardening club, dusting off your old guitar, or finally writing that memoir you've thought about for years. When you share snippets of your adventures, a photo of your tomato plants, a clip of you playing Blue Moon on the piano, you're inviting your grandkids into a vibrant, evolving story. And who knows? They might just want to join in. Now, I know this one can feel counterintuitive. We're taught that love means holding on tight. But think of it like a garden. Flowers bloom best when they have room to grow. Your grandchildren are figuring out their own lives, their own paths. By showing them that you're out there thriving too, you're giving them permission to breathe and a reason to circle back. Let's pause here for a moment. These two strategies, creating traditions and embracing your own journey, might feel like opposites, but they're deeply connected. One says, "Let's build something together." And the other whispers, "I'll be here, living fully whenever you're ready." Both are acts of love. Both keep the door open without guilt or pressure. And if you're thinking, but what if I try all this and still feel lonely sometimes? Well, dear heart, that's okay. Love doesn't erase loneliness. It walks alongside it. The goal isn't to fix everything overnight. It's to plant seeds, tiny, hopeful gestures that might bloom in ways you can't yet imagine. Let me leave you with this. A few years ago, I met a woman named Grace at a community workshop. She'd been struggling with her relationship with her teenage grandson. Texts ignored, visits cut short. So she started volunteering at an animal shelter, something she'd loved in her 40s. She'd send him videos of puppies learning to sit, or a grumpy cat she'd nicknamed Sir Grumpalot. No demands, no "why don't you call?" Just joy. And one day, out of the blue, he showed up at the shelter to volunteer with her. Turns out, he'd been struggling too, with the weight of growing up. But those silly videos became his lifeline. That's the power of leading with your heart, my friend. Not by chasing, but by shining. And as we wrap up this part of our conversation, I want you to hold on to that truth. You have so much light left to give. Let it glow. You know, When Grace told me that story about volunteering at the shelter, it reminded me of something my own grandmother used to say. Love isn't a tug of war, it's a dance. Sometimes we step forward, sometimes we step back, but the music never really stops. And that's what these 4 strategies are all about, isn't it? Meeting them where they are, sharing your story, creating new traditions, and nurturing your own joy. Not as a checklist, but as a rhythm, a way to keep dancing, even when life changes the tune. Let's take a moment to breathe into that. Maybe you've already tried one of these ideas, sent a meme, mailed a recipe, or even signed up for that painting class you've been eyeing. Or maybe you're still working up the courage. Wherever you are, that's okay. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. Showing up in small, steady ways that say, I'm here, I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. Now, if there's one thing I hope you take from our time together, it's this. You are enough. Not because of how often your grandkids visit or call, but because of who you are, the laughter you've shared, the lessons you've lived, the love you've woven into their lives. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, that love might feel invisible. But trust me, it's there. In the way they mimic your phrases, or crave your apple pie, or roll their eyes at the same old jokes. Those are your fingerprints on their heart. So, as we wrap up, let's circle back to the heart of it all. Connection doesn't demand grand gestures. It thrives in the ordinary, the everyday. A voicemail saying, heard this song and thought you'd laugh. A postcard with 3 words, miss your face. Even a quiet prayer sent into the universe before bed. These are the threads that keep us tethered, no matter the miles or years between us. Before I let you go, I want to ask you a favor, and it's not to hit like or subscribe. Though of course I'd love it if you did. No, the favor is this. Be gentle with yourself. If a text goes unanswered or a visit gets postponed, don't let it dim your light. Love is patient, love is kind, and love always hopes. Keep reaching out, but also let yourself receive. Notice the moments when their face lights up at your inside joke, or when they surprise you with a memory you'd forgotten. Those are your victories. And if you're feeling brave, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. What's one small way you've reconnected with someone you love? Or maybe a memory that still makes you smile? Let's create a little community here, sharing our triumphs and our try-agains. Because we're all in this together, learning as we go. Thank you for spending this time with me, dear friend. If this resonated with you, pass it along to someone who might need it too. And remember to subscribe if you'd like more conversations like this. We've got so much more to share. As I close this album and turn off the lamp, I'll leave you with this. The greatest gift you can give your grandkids isn't your time, your attention, or even your wisdom, though those are precious. It's the example of a life lived with an open heart. Keep yours open, my friend. You never know what, or who, might walk through. Here's to the dances we're still learning, and the love that never ends.